In this video, we will look at how to divide fractions. This will involve finding what is known as the reciprocal and then possibly reducing the fractions when we get our answer. Let's look at some simple division with whole numbers. 4 we can represent with 4 circles, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we divide 4 by 2, what we're really asking is how many groups of 2 can we make out of 4? So let's split up the circles. Let's split them into groups of 2. We can see that we have 1, 2 groups of 2. When we divide by 2, that is the same as finding a half. If you look at the 4 circles, you can see that there is an equal number of circles on the left and the right. We have divided the 4 in half. Dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by a half. If we look at the number 2, we can always rewrite that as 2 over 1. Any whole number we can write over 1 and it remains the same number. Dividing by 2, we can rewrite it as 2 over 1. And multiplying by a half, if we look at those two fractions, something looks very similar. On the left fraction, 2 over 1, the 2 is the numerator. The fraction on the right, 1/2, the 2 is the denominator. We can also see that the 1 on the left fraction is the denominator and the 1 in the right fraction is the numerator. Let's look at a proper fraction, 3 over 8. The 3 we know is the numerator, the 8 we know as the denominator. In order to find what is known as the reciprocal, we have to make the denominator the numerator and make the numerator the denominator. In other words, they switch places. We invert the fraction, which is another way of saying they switch places. So the 3 on the numerator becomes the denominator and the 8 on the denominator becomes the numerator. 8 over 3 is the reciprocal of 3 over 8. Let's look at another one. 1 over 5, a proper fraction. The 1 is the numerator and the 5 is the denominator. To find the reciprocal, we invert the fraction. Again, inverting the fraction is just another way of saying switching places with the denominator and the numerator. So the 1, which is the numerator, becomes the denominator, and the 5 now becomes the numerator. 5 over 1 is now the reciprocal of 1 over 5. One more. 6, the whole number, we can write as 6 over 1. The 6 is the numerator and the 1 is the denominator. To find the reciprocal, we invert or we switch places. And so 6 now becomes the denominator and 1 becomes the numerator. 1 over 6 is now the reciprocal of 6 over 1. You will need to get used to doing this in order for us to divide fractions properly. So let's look at the steps involved in dividing two fractions. Step 1. You will rewrite the question by leaving the first fraction the same and then writing the reciprocal of the fraction after the division sign. So 3 over 8 remains as 3 over 8. The fraction after the division sign, we find the reciprocal. Instead of 1/4, it is now 4 over 1. Step 2. Change the divide symbol into a multiplication symbol. Instead of divide, we are now going to convert it into multiply. And step 3, we simply multiply or reduce. We multiply the numerators and then we multiply the denominators. Let's look at the example 3 over 8 divided by 1 over 4. 3 over 8 remains the same. 1 over 4 is converted into its reciprocal, which is 4 over 1, and the division is now changed into multiplication. We now multiply the numerators, 3 times 4, and we multiply the denominators, 8 times 1. We know that 3 times 4 is 12, and 8 times 1 is 8. We now have an answer that is an improper fraction that we need to convert into a mixed number. And we do that by dividing 12 by 8. 8 into 12 goes once. 1 times 8 is 8. 12 take away 8 is 4. And we now have our answer as 1 and 4 over 8. Let's look at another question. 2 over 3 divided by 1 over 6. Again, we keep 2 over 3 the same. And the fraction after the division sign, we find the reciprocal. Instead of 1 over 6, we now change it to 6 over 1 and change divide to multiply. And now we multiply numerators, 2 times 6, and we multiply denominators, 3 times 1. 2 times 6 is 12, and 3 times 1 is 3. Again, we have an improper fraction that we have to convert into a mixed number. And we do that by dividing numerator by denominator. 12 divided by 3, 3 into 12 goes 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. When we subtract, we get nothing as our answer. And so our answer is simply the number 4. Looking at another question, 1 over 5 divided by 2 over 4. Again, we leave 1 over 5, and we change 2 over 4 into its reciprocal 4 over 2. And we change division to multiply, and we multiply 1 times 4 as the numerators and the denominators 5 times 2. We get an answer of 4 over 10. This time this is a proper fraction, but it is not in its lowest terms. 4 over 10. We find the factors of 4 and the factors of 10. We can see that the factors of 4 are 1, 2, and 4, and the factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. The common factors, those factors that are the same, are 1 and 2. And the greatest common factor is 2. So we take the number 2 and we divide 4 and 10 by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now our answer is in lowest terms, 2 over 5. Now you try 3 over 10 divided by 4 over 5. Remember to leave 3 over 10, and then find the reciprocal of 4 over 5, which gives you 5 over 4. Instead of the division sign now, we change it to multiplication. And 3 times 5 as our numerator, and 10 times 4 as our denominator works out to be 15 over 40. There are numbers that 15 and 40 can be divided by to give us smaller numbers. In order to do that, we have to list the factors of 15 and the factors of 40. The common factors of 15 and 40 are 1 and 5. And the greatest common factor is 5. And so we divide 15 by 5 to get 3. And we divide 40 by 5 to get 8. And therefore our answer in lowest terms is 3 over 8. And now you've solved the mystery of dividing fractions.